It's well on.
Okay, and welcome to Mythical Monster Investigations, episode 12, where we will be looking at the Wendigo or the Wendigo or however it's pronounced
I
because they
say
never really
Wendigo.
said Wendigo. Yeah, it's never been settled. Like, I think everybody's heard different versions of it. So, whichever you want to call it. This is.
Wendigo.
This is a more obscure mythos, and it appears primarily in Native American legends. So you're going to find this mostly around the Americas. Um, it is not well known, but it's been gaining more attention thanks to certain shows such as Supernatural, Sleepy Hollow, and well, other supernatural based shows. I do not believe the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer ever had a Wendigo character, but to be fair, I don't completely remember Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so it might have. Uh, did you
I
guys ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
a little bit.
Not really.
I, I it was most of the time just vampires.
I know they had a werewolf every now and again and demons, but I don't think they ever did Wendigo.
Um. Apparently they did do a Wendigo.
They did, really.
I think it was season 4 from what I'm looking up.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I know I'm gonna piss people off by saying this, but I'm gonna say it. Supernatural is a far better show than Buffy.
Oh yeah, he had no argument for me about that. I
I'm
um.
sorry. Look, I like Buffy. I get the following. I get why it's popular, but I'm sorry. Supernatural just blows it out of the water.
Let me just trying to get some. They actually had a closer version of the Wendigo. So I'm showing like one of the final transformations, but I was trying to look on the Buffy wiki, and they're actually showing someone transforming into the Wendigo, where they're getting skinny, they're getting long claws, their hair's falling out. It actually
Um,
looked like the traditional Wendigo.
is this the version on it? What's on the screen right now?
This is the final version. This was from a this was like the Wendigo curse.
Okay, yeah, this is not from Buffy. This is from Sleepy Hollow.
Is that from Sleepy Hollow? Okay.
Yes, I recognize it.
The one on the right too?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same one. That's from Sleepy Hollow.
Okay, so they're both from Sleepy Hollow because
Yes.
because that's what they were listening. Oh, then
Which
hang
I
on.
give props to Sleepy Hollow. It's a good image.
Sorry. Was I on the wrong wiki? I was on the wrong wiki. Sorry about that. On the wrong wiki. I was on Sleepy Hollow. Okay. All they did was they had a episode called "The Lair of the Wendigo."
Huh.
Um, Slayers arrive in. Is this a? Let me make sure this is Buffy.
Slayers arrive in town? That
Um,
sounds more like supernatural.
this was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the role playing game. So this was a
Oh,
short
okay.
story where I don't know if you remember those books where you would buy the books. It would be like turn to page 2 when you made your choice. You know, choose A or B, and if you choose A, you turn to
Oh,
this page.
yeah, I remember
They
that.
did one of those with called the Lair of the Wendigo, where a bunch of Slayers arrive in town to learn about the Totem Warriors, and the Wendigo is, I think, the antagonist of that game.
Yeah, I remember that. I always hated books.
So,
Just because whenever I made a choice, then I was wondering, well, what's the other choice? I ended up reading the whole book. I'm like, well, why do I need to do this? Why can't I just read the whole stupid adventure as is?
so yeah, they did actually. It is exists in their universe. They just did not do anything with it in the actual show.
No, and that's the thing. Like even shows where they show up, like in Supernatural, it only showed up once, and the same with Sleepy Hollow. So again, while it's been getting a little bit of attention, it's not an extremely popular monster. I'm not really sure why, but maybe it's just because. Well, let's get into it and look into maybe why it's not as popular. So oddly enough, this was actually the very first monster that I did an in-depth look into. Why? Because I found it interesting based on actually descriptions. Because I've always liked monsters, I've always been interested in them. But the reason I really took a dive into this and started, diving more and more into monsters was because of this description in particular. Now, I want to point out before this that the description of the Wendigo can change from tribe to tribe, and it can vary. But one of the older descriptions I found, which was based off other things, was the Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation. Its desiccated skin pulled tautly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton, recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. It was unclean and suffering from suppurations of the flesh. The Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption, which is Native American folklore. Now, that sounds very fanciful, but when I looked at it, is that it might not be as fanciful as you think. And to do that, we need to take a closer look at this monster. Now, again, while the descriptions are varied, for instance, for those of you looking on YouTube, later on depictions became more monstrous and to the point where it even had a deer skull on top of it with antlers, which antlers are a very popular theme for the Wendigo. I don't know why. Um, Maybe it's because antlers are a symbol of power. Maybe that's it.
Well,
Especially for Hollywood, they like antlers.
well, that's also kind of a. I think in more Hollywood they like antlers, but because I've been trying to think of the deer skull, why that one specifically became. The only thing I can think of is Wendigos was often associated with the woods.
That's true.
In the original folklore, and deer skulls are probably one of the more common types of skulls you would come across, um, in the woods, if you were just wandering around in North America woods.
That's true.
Um, and since the whole origin behind the Wendigo, of how a Wendigo is made, and I'll get into it when you bring up the actual, because I don't think you brought the folklore of how it
No,
get.
not yet.
Okay, so I'll get into it then, because I think I understand where the deer head came from.
Okay, well then let's dive into it. So basically, although the descriptions vary, basically from all the descriptions, it's supposed to be a demonic beast-like creature who feeds on human flesh. And this thing is normally beast and man-like features. In more popular versions, it's actually possessed by an evil spirit, and it changes. A human is actually possessed by an evil spirit and changes into one. But the majority of the claim that a human becomes this through the consumption of human flesh. If a man or anybody else eats of human flesh, they will become a Wendigo. That's the most prevalent, not the possessed by evil spirit, though that's what a lot of the supernatural shows go with. So, what does that relate to the antlers theory in your mind?
So in my mind, what that relate to is the fact that one, if I see a bunch of you originally said that one of the things that they refer to with the Wendigo is how skinny and so emancipated that you can see its bones,
Yes,
which
like a skeleton.
which deer skeleton. I said that deer skeletons are probably one of the more common big skeletons you will see in the woods,
That's
just
true.
because of, if Native American, I would assume they're hunting, and deer would be the first thing I would go after if I'm hunting in the woods. Deer or pig. Don't see, but then again, I don't think pigs were native to America until the Europeans came over. If
Yeah, it's actually
memories,
a good question. I
I
don't know.
I believe so. I believe the wild hog was not native to North America. Yeah, no, pigs was not native to North America. They were first brought over by Christopher Columbus, 1493.
Oh,
Okay, which is what I thought,
okay.
because I remember pigs was the most invasive species in America, which is
They really are.
which is why most people, a lot of states in America have gun law, let people have high caliber rifles so they could kill those things.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, you're allowed to. There is a company that lets you rent time in a helicopter to go shoot them with a Gatling gun.
yep, I know they do that in Alaska a lot. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. That's also interesting. Pig skulls look very similar to deer skulls
Huh. Without the antlers, of course.
without the antlers, but in terms of how they look very similar. Wow, that's daunting. I never knew how similar they look. I'll try to get an image real fast on screen
Well,
because
what they have found surprising, like a skull does not always look like the face that goes onto it. Like, because that was actually, I think it was the Marduk monster or something. Well, whatever. It was a strange creature. Well, they said it was a strange creature that washed up onto the shore, and it looked very alien and new. And when they looked at it, it was like, no, it's just a bulldog. Because the thing is, the bulldog's face had worn off almost to the skull, and that's the thing. Like, a bulldog's skull does not look like a bulldog. Like, it's actually kind of odd how much skulls don't really look like the animal they represent, which we saw in the last video about cyclopses
not to
with
mention
the mammal.
alligator skulls.
Yes, which was also in our dragon
Okay,
thing
was the
about.
dragon? I've been trying to remember where it was. We saw the
Yeah, it
beast
was
of Troy,
dragon with the Greek dragon, the beast of Troy. That was it,
but
which was said to be slain by Hercules.
just a comparison side by side. Deer is on the left, pig is on the right.
Yeah, I can tell by the shape of the top score hits, but very close.
It's very close. So yeah, it's
I
kind
mean, most people wouldn't know.
most people wouldn't be able to tell off first glance. I mean, the fact that the jaw go further back with the deer.
Yeah. Hey, to be fair, nowadays scientists have trouble determining an ape skull from a human skull. So, maybe
I
we should
I try not
give
to think about that.
yeah, let's give them some slack.
So I can understand a little bit where that whole So I guess circling back to the point of the deer thing, I think that was maybe that was a good way of representing the creature became very bone like, was making it wear the bones of a dead animal. Um, I also think also whenever I hear bones, I see animal bones that is pretty much scraped clean of a lot of the flesh and meat. I
Yeah.
think someone just ate the thing clean, which kind of feeds into how the Wendigo is such a hungerous cannibal. It'll eat anything because it's essentially got a hunger that can't be filled.
Yes, which we'll look into more later in the video. But yeah, no, that's a good theory.
Plus,
I
people
mean,
are freaked out by deer deer skulls.
people are freaked out by skulls in general.
That's true.
Unless you're one of those people who frequents Hot Topic.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah, let's move on. Okay, so now people have theorized about this, like they theorize about every myth, and honestly, I haven't seen them put a lot of thought into the theory. Basically, they believe that it's a made-up story. It's imaginary. It's an imaginary monster like the boogeyman, and it's meant to reinforce a moral code.
Don't eat people.
That's yeah, pretty much. That's what it is. So they believe it's just a made-up monster that Native American peoples and tribes told their kids so that they, don't eat people. Which I don't know. If you're a parent and you need to tell your kid not to eat people, you may have more problems than you think.
Yet the same story and same type of monster also exists in Greece.
Yes,
Surprisingly enough.
it exists quite a few wares, which is why I think that just maybe there's more truth than fantasy to this mythos. So that's what I thought, and where I began was with the description. Now, while the description sounded very haunting and everything, it's actually rather simplistic. And my thing is, if it was meant to induce fear, if it was meant to be this horrible monster, why isn't it more flamboyant? Like, we get this later version, it's got the skull, it's got the antlers, it's I mean, it also most looks like Slender Man picked up a deer skull and put it on top of his head. It's a more intimidating monster, and you could see that in these later tellings, so you can understand why it would be more intimidating, because the original story is not as scary. Now, to be fair, it's not as scary by today's standards. Doesn't mean that it wasn't scary, but my point is that when you go back to this original description that I gave in the beginning of the podcast, it's not as intimidating. I mean, wouldn't you say?
I mean, it's a skinny person.
Yeah. Um, and again, that's when you think about it, especially again by today's standards, where we have werewolves, vampires, and giant kaiju monsters are the latest trend. You need more scary. So the Wendigo later on, especially with Hollywood, became more of this skull thing, or got a more goblin-like appearance. But taking a closer look at the description and lacking the knowledge that it described a monster, maybe we could get a different conclusion from what's actually being described. And if you do that, you kind of turn this horror story into more of a warning. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that it's specifically made not to tell a story, but to warn people of something bad happening. So we're going to assume that there's truth to this story. And the first thing we need to look at is if that we're assuming truth is one of the big like staples that we see throughout all these, and that is the taboo of cannibalism. And this is actually interesting because the Native American tribes were very against this. They had a big taboo against cannibalism, even for survival, which, despite the claims of early settlements, despite the claims of early settlers, most Native American tribes and most tribes were very against cannibalism. Now, this was not true for all of them. There were definitely some cannibalistic tribes. Let's not even pretend about that. And yes, to all of you people who are offended by that, I'm sorry. It's history. Cannibals do exist to this day, actually. In fact, I think there are still some tribes of cannibals in where are they? Like,
Pacific Islands.
yeah, that's it. There are still cases of that. So don't get offended by the truth. I just forgot what age we're in, so that's not going to happen. Anyway, but yeah, so while it was a staple of early settlers that all tribal people were probably cannibals, a lot of them were not. So again, with that in mind, the story becomes less of a horror story and more of a warning of consequences to this illegal action. The creature itself, again, while descriptions vary, mostly describe, as Shadow Artifact has been mentioning, a skinny human or some kind of hybrid. So what we can get from this is that the Wendigo probably was a human, or at least had a human form, which rules out most types of animals. Like a bear, they know what a bear looks like, and bears don't often walk on their hind legs. And we can also rule out the Sasquatch. Because,
Can we?
yes, we can rule out the Sasquatch.
Okay.
The Sasquatch is a video for another time, more in depth for it, but this Wendigo was not a Sasquatch.
He was a Bigfoot.
It was not a Bigfoot. It was not a Yeti. Again, that will be in another video. It is not things. But the Sasquatch will be mentioned one more time in this video for another purpose. But again, it is not the focus. So, based on that, what makes the most sense? What makes the most sense is the Wendigo was probably human. And again, the suggestion actually supports this, and it actually warns against cannibalism. But here's the thing. Now, I want to say, while I'm saying this, I in no way condone cannibalism. I'm just playing devil's advocate to make a point. Is why exactly does all these legends warn against cannibalism? Why is it so taboo? I mean, especially if you're in scarce land with long winters and extreme conditions, why are these tribes so against it? I mean, after all, they have rituals to honor animals killed for giving them the gift of life. Why not do the same in extreme conditions for, when you might not have a choice but to perhaps eat a deceased human or something like that just for sustenance? Again, not condoning it. I personally think it's wrong, but I'm just saying, for the sake of argument, isn't it a little strange that it is so taboo? What do you think?
Um, and we're talking cannibalism in terms of tribal societies, not so much modern day take on it.
Yeah, tribal societies completely. We're scarce lands, harsh winters, everything I just said, where you could kind of theoretically see the logic behind it. Again, not.
So tough call because I was also looking up modern day tribal cannibalists. There are some still in the Congo, as well as the Pacific. I think they list them as I know the Maui used to eat people. Um, they did it more for as a warrior type trait to say I'm not only going to kill you, I'm going to eat you so your soul can't pass on to the afterlife
That sounds
properly.
like Maui.
Um, I know for a lot of tribes they would eat people because of that same mentality. If I eat my enemy, I get their power. Um, but a lot many most frowned upon it just because of I know currently when you eat people, there is a sickness that most people get when they eat human bodies because the human body isn't meant to eat
No,
itself. So I know that oftentimes when people who modernly do cannibalism, whether it's on purpose or because they're stranded, they often get very sick afterward due to the process of eating something else,
yes,
eating a human being. So I can only think of, as a tribal society, you would see people being, you would see someone eat another person, and then they would probably immediately get sick afterward, and think, okay, it's clearly, not only is it feel on a morally level bad to eat another human being, but it seemed like our bodies get sick afterwards. So, I would just assume tribes would eventually see, this guy just ate a dead body and now he's dead. I'm going to assume eating dead body is a bad thing.
probably so. And Zed, any thoughts on that as well, or
No, not really. Makes sense to me.
yeah? Okay, so then we can say then that this was definitely a law. So to really understand this, is we need to actually take a look. What is the point of a law? Now, a lot of people nowadays will say laws are just made by the man to keep us down and all that crap because, oh, have we got an activism problem lately? But it is slightly understandable because there are some ridiculous laws out there. For instance, there is a law in the states of the U.S. that it's actually illegal to kill Bigfoot. I said he'd been mentioned one more time, but yeah,
Which state is
there was a
that?
state. I forget which state it is,
Now
but
I'm
it is
looking
an
that up.
actual law that it is illegal to kill Bigfoot. And now the reason for this is because a lot of people started going out with guns, shooting bears and other people who were moving.
Washington.
Yeah, that's right. So they had to make the law to basically protect people and the wildlife from crazy people trying to kill all the Bigfoot. So as you can see, while strange, there is an actual reason before it. And another bizarre law that you all are seeing if you're watching this on YouTube is that in Alabama, it is illegal to have an ice cream cone in your back pocket. And Shadow R. Fox, you actually looked this up.
Yes,
Why
because
is this?
this was so weird, I didn't believe it was true for a second. So this actually, there is a logical reason why this is true. Um, when back when most people rode around on horseback, horse thieves would put ice cream in their pocket to lure the horses away without being charged with stealing.
What? Wait, what?
So essentially, horse thieves back in the day would put essentially what we
No, no,
would
no.
call.
I got that part. The part that I'm not getting is why a horse wants ice cream.
Oh well, horses like sweet stuff. Sugar cubes.
Okay, fair.
I told you, on a logical level, it does make sense because I'm like, I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just put sugar cubes in? I'm like, of course, you can't if you put sugar cubes in your pockets, the horse won't really be able to tell that you have sugar cubes in your pocket, but ice cream will melt in your pocket, which will cause the horse to come over and investigate. It'll see that it's sweet, start to lick. The other horses will see the same thing and start to come after. And I'm like, yes, this actually would be a way to steal a horse back in the day.
Yeah, that's actually extremely logical. It makes sense.
You see now
Wow.
why when I read this, I'm like, it's logic, it's stupid, but it's completely logical why they made this law.
Yeah, and again, that's the point. So
And
even laws that
they
seem
just haven't changed
ridiculous.
it.
No, because it's no longer needed. Why would they ever address it again?
Okay, who else now wants to go to Alabama and put ice cream back in their pocket just to see what will happen?
I want
And
to
then
go a
walk
step
past
further. Yeah, I want to go to a horse stable and do that.
Oh god, the press. Oh, it'd be horrible. But okay, so yeah, even laws that sound ridiculous, we see the reasons for laws, the reasons laws exist are for various things like peace, obedience, and most of all, protecting people from harm. Because there have actually been laws that needed to be passed just to keep people from doing incredibly stupid things. I think in Minnesota, there's actually a law that says you're not allowed to walk around with a duck on your head, which sounds stupid, but apparently the reason for this was that a lot of people did this during hunting season and ended up getting shot in the head. Comment?
No. What I want to know is what dumbass hunter saw a duck on top of something much taller than it was supposed to be and then shot it.
I don't know. I don't know how to justify that.
Elmer
Shadow R
Fudd.
Fox, what do you think?
I was just thinking Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, I got nothing. Okay, so based on the fact that laws are actually meant to protect people, there is no matter how dumb, there is a purpose for laws. Is it possible that the story of the Wendigo was what tribal people believed would happen? And if so, why? Because again, according to the law is there because it did happen. So that means that there's probably some basis of truth in this. So now the question is, what exactly is that? And before we get into that, this is a good point to stop and play a very difficult game of who's that Pokemon monster. Because as it turns out, Wendigo is one of the few creatures that Pokemon really
There's
doesn't
nothing.
seem to
There's
have looked
absolutely
into.
nothing.
So
There's
Zed,
literally
take it
just
away.
nothing.
Well, I heard you tried to find something.
Yeah, I tried. There's nothing.
Yeah, so
I'm not even
apparently
gonna bother with some weird intro thing. Just put Trevenant on the damn screen. The closest thing that I was able to gather was the Pokemon Trevenant, which is a tree brought to life by a spirit. And the only reason it's the closest thing is because, one, it has horns, and two, it will devour people who come to harm the forest, I think is what it said. So it does eat people.
Huh. Interesting look. I didn't expect it to be like spirally crab-like mix there. But,
well, how else would you expect tree roots' legs to look?
well, I was more thinking about why does it look like it's wearing Charlie Brown's shirt? What? Because the little.
I don't even have a comment for that one.
Well, you never thought about it, have you?
No, and also I clearly have not seen Charlie Brown in a long time because that does not look like a shirt he would wear.
Well, it's not yellow.
Well, it's not yellow, but that's the same black stripe pattern.
It is the
Is
same
it?
stripe pattern. Yeah, it
I
is
have
the same.
not seen that in a long time then,
It's
because
the
I
same
don't.
stripe, but it's not yellow. That's the only downside.
Yes, because a yellow tree would look ridiculous, compared to the giant man-eating tree with the one eye. You could have put this in the Cyclops one.
Yeah, well,
Because it does actually have one eye, so... okay, multiple Pokemon have multiple uses. Good to know.
It used
well
to
yeah,
have
I
So-
could have told you that.
Hey, but for once, we finally stumped Pokemon.
I mean, maybe Gengar just because they eat people dreams.
I swear to God, if someone from Game Freak now sees this and goes, "Oh, we haven't made a Wendigo. Let's put that in the next one," I'm gonna scream.
It's gonna be the new legendary.
Okay, if Game Freak does come out with a Wendigo Pokemon, we're going, oh my god, they watch our... Very least they could do, if you do that, just give us a shout out. That's all I'm asking. This is to Game Freak. If you do get the idea and create a Wendigo Pokemon, just give us a shout out. That's all I'm asking. That's a simple request, right?
I'm trying to think. Maybe Snorlax?
Wait, Snorlax.
I mean, it eats a lot of food every day. Maybe sometime a person get mixed in with the food.
I don't think it's ever mentioned that it eats a person.
I could see that if, you try to hold out a grapefruit to a Snorlax and it accidentally eats your hand.
Yeah, maybe.
Actually, I'm surprised Adult Swim hasn't done something like that. Maybe they have, and I just don't know it. No, wait, not Adult Swim. What's the show they did with the little action figures?
Robot Chicken.
That's it. God, that was a dumb show. Yes, it was funny. I get the jokes. It was still a dumb show.
Dumb shows are meant to be funny, but they're also meant to be dumb shows.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm not gonna harp on it too much.
I like the Star Wars specials because watching the Emperor be on a escalator as a bunch of stormtroopers are passing him on the other side of the escalator, and they're all going for the Empire, and he's having to say, okay, hello, hello, hello. Eventually, halfway through the escalator, he just starts saying to go F themselves.
Yeah, again, I get it, but I'm not gonna lie, I prefer college humor ones. I think they're funnier.
Oh, wait, I think I may know a Pokemon. Hang on, that could fit this.
Well, actually, this does, since we're having so much trouble finding a Pokemon, where others we've multiple examples for monsters, it shows just how obscure this legend really is, to where it actually hasn't reached Japan.
Okay.
Or there might be another reason, which I'll talk about later on.
I was thinking, Zed, hear me out on this. Victory Bell.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Is that the weird one with the big mouth?
Yeah, the plant.
I could see that eating people.
Because remember in the original anime, it always tried to eat James, its trainer.
Wait. Are you mixing up Carnivine?
Is it Carnivine?
No,
I don't recall James ever having a Victory Bell.
Yeah, no, he did. The yellow one with the leaves, right?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah, no, he had one, and it constantly tried to eat him.
I remember Carnivine trying to eat him.
I don't know what Carnivine is.
Hang on. Now I have to look up what he had.
Yeah, he also had Carnivine.
Because I know the chick with the pink hair that defied all reason and logic also had that Lickitung and the Wobbuffet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
okay,
right.
what did he...
Which, I'm not going to lie, so many dirty memes were made with that Lickitung.
James Victory Bell. I just looked on Bulbapedia. He had 2 separate Victory Bell traded each.
Oh yeah, no, he did. Okay.
Okay. Great. I'm not going crazy.
Apparently he did. I only recall ever seeing Carnivine try to eat him, but I guess okay. That works, I guess. Okay.
Let me see if I can actually now find a picture of Victory Bell eating James, and that
You probably could, because I didn't even know he had that. Then again, my forte with Pokemon is the games, not the anime.
Yeah, I regret that I know the anime. And again, I regret how many dirty comics I've seen with the joke about Jesse having a lickitung. Ugh.
Oh, I never even saw that, and I think I just because I was too young to when those jokes probably came out.
Yeah.
So I guess
Well,
we'll
no, because like we're close to the same age. So.
no, but I never back then. I didn't go online a whole lot about that, so I never heard
Eh.
any of those jokes.
Oh yeah. Because I did spend time looking up rude comic books just for fun of it.
So yeah, okay.
Which you've got to be careful when searching for
Oh yeah,
like
no, yep, there he is, getting completely Okay,
yeah no because that I
screw
remember.
me sideways, I guess.
Eh,
So
it happens to the best of us. I remembered though because you've got to be very careful when you're looking up little adult comics to make you laugh because you will go real quickly into adult comics.
oh yes.
Like you've got to be very careful with that search, which I unfortunately found out the hard way. Ugh. Seriously, Rule 34. What the hell?
It's glorious.
Really?
Yeah, Rule 34. Look it up. Oh.
I like how we have gone from a discussion about Wendigos into Rule 34.
Well, I mean,
Okay, let's.
Which means now
well,
that I've said that and brought that up, people are now going to search Wendigo Rule 34.
well, I mean, it makes
Oh,
sense.
God.
It makes sense how we got to this topic. Wendigos are people who eat other people. Rule 34 is the internet eating very nice topics and turning them into horrible things.
How does that make sense? That's strangely
Well,
strangely makes sense.
I mean, Wendigo, people who eat people and turn into horrible things because of it. Rule 34 take same thing or nice things and turn it into horrible things, such as porn. Well, I don't call porn horrible, but apparently you guys do.
Okay, let's move on.
Don't
I will
put
touch
words in my
back.
mouth. I didn't say shit.
I will touch back on Pokemon for a bit later, but for now, we're going to move on with the description. We will continue with the description of the monster, and that if there's a law against it, that perhaps it did happen. So, what do we know about this monster? Again, while descriptions vary, the taboo is eating human flesh, which means that this monster was said to have an uncontrollable urge to eat human flesh. In fact, there's actually a psychosis called the Wendigo psychosis to describe this very thing. Now, the question is why? To most people who have any sense of morality, which, based on the existence of Rule 34, I'm not sure how much of that morality exists anymore, but let's not make assumptions, is why would someone have an uncontrollable urge to eat human flesh? Well, while this seems strange, there might be a response that we shouldn't immediately dismiss. As odd as it seems, a good explanation is actually addiction. Now, everyone's heard of drug addiction. People get hooked on various narcotics such as cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, and those are the only ones that I know. But people also get addicted to cigarettes and various. People get addicted to a lot of weird things. There's even a thing where people get addicted to janking, which is a particularly strange form of narcotic where people get high off their own excrement.
Oh, Jenkum.
Yeah.
I thought you said
Which,
janking. I'm like, janking? What the heck is janking?
Oh, sorry, I mispronounced it. But yeah, where people get high by containing and sniffing the methane that comes off their excrement.
Yeah, that got
Which,
popular in the States for a while.
yeah, that's not a great shining example of America right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was the reason it got popular in the States. It was technically, I mean, it's hard to outlaw it because it's technically just human waste. So how are you gonna tell people, don't have human waste around?
You know what? I say this is a good addition for winners of the Darwin Award. Let's just
For obvious reason, there's reason why you shouldn't do Jenkum. In the first half, is you are huffing human excrement. So
and pure methane.
yes.
And also it's gross.
Oh yeah, no, the gross part is the big thing.
Yeah,
That's the
just
biggest
go.
thing.
It's gross. And okay, so but people addicted to drugs, as it's well known, are willing to do a lot to get drugs, especially when they become addicted. Because the thing is, their body starts to build up a tolerance. And as they build up a tolerance, they need more and more and more of that narcotic in order to get to the same high, which arguably they'll never get to, which is why it's so hard to quit these things and why drug addicts often relapse. And oftentimes, it's a lot of times why drug addicts are homeless or criminals because they will literally sell everything just to get high, which also ends up doing some bad things. Get high, they will attack people, they will steal, they will even kill, which is a sad truth of addiction and why it's a big problem because this has the whole question of, should you be allowed to do it versus public safety, which is an argument we don't need to get into. We can leave that for a political thing. But the point is that they will do almost anything for that release of dopamine that is triggered by the drug. And you see, here's the thing is that it is possible that the consumption of human flesh can do the same thing. And this is not outside the realm of possibilities because there is, in fact, such thing as a food addiction, where people can get a dopamine release high from eating too much or eating various foods,
Yep.
mostly sugars, fats, and salts. Sorry, Shadow Fox, you were saying something?
No. I was agreeing. Like this is why this you could make the argument. This is why a lot of people are obese in the U.S.
Yes. Compulsive overeating, similar to compulsive shopping and compulsive gambling addiction. All real things. So it doesn't just have to be narcotics. And there is actually quite a few series. Well, there's a few series that looks into food addictions and just how bad it can be because again, you can build up a tolerance and you require more and more food to fill you up, and actually the part of your body that tells you that you're full can be overcome just for that continued release of dopamine, which can cause people to get horridly obese and is the reason My 600-Pound Life existed as a television show, which I'm not sure if it's around anymore. And I'm not going to lie, every time I've heard that show, it's made me go work out for several hours for obvious reasons. Did you guys ever see that show?
I know of this show.
I think
Yeah.
I heard of it, but I've never seen it.
I've never
Yeah.
watched it just because it's.
I don't recommend it. I'm sorry, I don't recommend it. So anyway, that could describe the behavior. If a Wendigo, a human being, got a taste for human flesh, it is very possible that consumption of that flesh released dopamines into his brain, just like any other food addiction, and basically became his addiction to where he would go and actually consider killing someone for that addiction. The only difference is instead of robbing them to get it, that dead person was his addiction, which could very well describe the behavior. What do you think? Possible? Out of the ordinary? What's up?
Um,
That makes sense.
yeah, I mean, people. I mean, currently today, people get really addictive to certain types of food, certain types of drinks, um, especially sugary stuff, to the point that people eat it now just to feel something, to deal with depression. So, and I mean,
Uh,
you can get addicted to virtually anything: a video game, reading, um, watching TV, even working out can be its own addiction.
yeah, though that's not one I suffer from.
Mm.
I am personally a chocoholic, as you both know.
I mean,
It's not a secret that I like candy. At all. But I've got it under control. Kind of. Anyway, so that describes behavior. Now, what about the look? Now, the look that I described before may sound fanciful, but actually, it's not fanciful at all if you really understand what exactly you're looking at and know a little bit about human biology, because it's actually a perfect description of severe starvation. Now, especially in America, we don't really think about starvation because, unfortunately, we have quite an obesity problem. But for actual cases of starvation, quite a change goes to the body. One of the biggest and most notable things is that fat cells are dissipated, especially in the face and around the eyes. This gives eyes a sunken and hollowed appearance, just like it's described as the Wendigo having. And as the fat cells get used up, more and more muscle is broken down for sustenance. And what happens is the body becomes emaciated and to the point where you look, all your bones are sticking out. You look like a virtual skeleton. But oddly enough, the hands and feet of the person will actually begin to swell with retained water as the body tries to survive, giving a very bizarre, gangly appearance. And with this, with continued starvation, especially if you're not able to eat enough but able to eat just a little bit to survive, you are also in danger of various maladies and diseases, including anemia, diarrhea, rashes, heart failure, plus various infectious disease. Which, when you think of this, the Wendigo legend stops sounding like a horror story and it starts to sound more like a patient file. The open sores on their bodies, the look of decay, the smell of it might actually, the final part, the smell and the look of decay, might actually describe the myth. So, what I think is a very possible explanation is that they based this law, this taboo in this story, off what could have happened to some of their warriors. If during times of famine or perhaps during a ritual they had, one of their warriors or one of their people ate a human body, again, either for survival or perhaps for what the Maui did, to do some ritualistic performance, and got addicted. They got addicted to human flesh. Now, to be fair, even despite settlers claiming it, Native Americans couldn't just go around their tribe started eating them. So, what might they have done? Well, they could very well have gone to graveyards, dug up fresh corpses, and started eating them, however small of a source that would have been. Eventually, they would have been found out, they would have been hunted, could have become emaciated, and the smell of death, the gray skin, everything else could very well come from them searching for decaying corpses to eat. And of course, as Shadow R. Fox mentioned, decaying corpses could very well lead to other infectious diseases, which is another reason taboo. So that what people have thought have been a Native American myth could very well have been a warning of exactly what it was. Don't eat human flesh, or this could be what would happen to you. Which we mentioned before that Pokemon did not have much on the Wendigo, maybe because the Wendigo is actually the American mythology version of werebeasts. Werewolves, were-tigers, were-hyenas all stem from the same taboo of cannibalism. So perhaps Wendigo is actually just the American version of that, and that's why it's not as widespread, is because we've already really got a monster. Possible? What do you think?
well, I mean, different myth. Like, for example, the Greeks have the Lemuria, the snake monster, full cannibalist monster, along with Cyclops, along with Titans, along with technically Zeus.
And they also have werewolves.
They do have werewolves. We can't also forget Tantalus.
Yeah, to be fair, Greeks all sorts of messed up.
We got Baba Yaga. For the on the Eastern European side, she was cannibalistic. Um,
Wait, was she?
she would I think she would have people like actual human body part cooking in her pot.
Yeah, but was she considered human, or I thought she
She
was
was a
supposed to be
witch.
like a, she was a witch, but like I don't know. Does that go over the same thing?
I mean, I would consider a witch human unless they specifically said the witch was something else other than a human.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I guess you just don't really put the witch in the same category as cannibals. I guess it's more like some. It's like I guess some witches can be cannibals, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're cannibals.
Yeah, so
Okay, but like I said, well, Baba Yaga again deserves its own video, if nothing
yeah,
else for the John Wick reference.
um personally, I think the origin of the Wendigo, while some of it is a warning of, don't be like this, I also think in terms of the human aspect, I think it was a little bit more common to have people who became cannibalist addicted to cannibalism than we're almost led on to believe, because remember, currently nowadays there's a black market for people selling body parts, human body parts, to other people so they can eat it.
Yeah, that's true.
And if that exists even nowadays, who's to say that, it wasn't more of a problem back then when food could be scarce in different regions?
Yeah, no, that's true. Which I'm not gonna lie. I have studied cannibalism a little bit, and from what I have found is that there is a very bad addictive quality to it. Like one story I read about was when back when Australia was being used as a penal colony, a few prisoners managed to escape, and well, unfortunately, they escaped into Australia, and well, we all know Australia is pretty much a death trap.
Yeah.
And well, to survive, at one point, they had to start eating one another until there was only two left. And, well, of course, one waited for the other to fall asleep, and then he killed him. And he actually managed to find some food, yet he kept the body parts. And that was the thing, is that he tried to escape again, and this time, when he escaped again, he went immediately, even though he had food, he grabbed another human being, killed them, and like carved off their flesh for bits to eat. He literally became addicted to eating human flesh. So I think there's actually like something to it. I think the consumption of your own does do something to your brain in a very weird way that goes beyond just mere survival, which is why personally, yeah, even if I'm starving to death, I'm not eating a person because those stories freak me out.
Yeah, I almost, from hearing those stories, I almost think it's kind of, when some people have a certain type of food or drink or beverage or snack and they just really get addictive to it. For example, you in chocolate. For me, it would be, shoot, I don't know, maybe sodas. I used to be very addictive to sodas and carbonated beverages.
That's fair.
But I mean, maybe it's that with people. Sometime they saw some people. Maybe originally they used tribesmen ate people, and they saw how people got sick from it, and they made it outlawed. Maybe some people just got addictive to it. Whether it's because of they kept doing it as part of a ritual, and they got addicted to the taste, or they just had because everybody brains are wired differently when it comes to tasting. So who's to say it just didn't taste good to them? They started trying to be cannibalistic, and maybe in some places they even tried to feed into the culture of the Wendigo to hide their crimes. Oh, it wasn't a person who killed this person; it was the Wendigo.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like humans trying to pass off the blame from themselves. Like, of course, when does that ever happen, right?
Oh yeah.
But Yeah, so again, this was the first monster I ever deeply investigated, and I think it's interesting. I think it's got some interesting points and some interesting mythos behind it. And most of all, though, I think it shows that the whole main point is that our ancestors, other tribes, and everything are not as dumb and backwards as we think. Like, just because there's a difference between just because someone doesn't have a lot of knowledge does not mean they're not dumb. That it doesn't mean they're dumb. It just means like someone can know an entire library but still be a complete idiot. Is my point. So we shouldn't judge people as stupid just because, technically we've seen more. If that makes sense.
Oh,
Make sense? Or...
yeah, no, that makes sense. I was also I kept trying to remember because there was a game that came out very recently that featured the Wendigo as the main antagonist, and this game actually did have a more accurate depiction of a Wendigo. It was called Until Dawn.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the you remember the Telltale games we used to do?
Yes.
Like it was similar to that.
Always take the money.
It was similar to that in the sense that you would control various people throughout the story and you would be given choices, and depending on your choices, characters may live or die. um and basically I'm trying to find a good picture of the Wendigo. Now they treat the Wendigo more like a werewolf, in the sense of, I think once you got bitten by it you may become one. um but yeah, I believe that's what they did. They treated it like more of a werewolf, in terms of once you get bitten by it you become one. But it basically look some ways kind of like zombies, other ways very similar to, yeah, I'll put the picture up there now.
Okay. I mean, that's probably pretty close.
I mean, it's basically a skinny person, sunken eyes. Now, granted, they made it look more zombie-like than they probably needed to, but essentially that kind of was a that I mean that's kind of a good explanation of or a good appearance of a Wendigo, is a human trying to eat other human. And I mean, they did exactly what Wendigo would do. They tried to eat people.
I mean, yeah, no, that fits. So, I'll get on video games. So, again, slightly starting to become more popular. Still obscure, though.
Yeah, it's obscure. I was also trying to remember because I can't remember whether it was Supernatural or this game where they said the Wendigo weakness was fire, and I'm like, where the hell did they get that from?
I don't know, actually. I have no clue. Maybe because you're supposed to burn bodies with infectious diseases?
Because that was the thing I meant to ask, was, is it true that their weakness is fire?
No. That appears to have been a later addition.
Yeah, I'm
I guess
trying.
they just needed something cool to kill it.
Okay, it was this video game where they said fire was the way to kill it.
That sounds right. Because Supernatural did the same thing. I think they actually used a flare gun.
Yeah, no, and that was the whole thing in this game, was you use fire and explosion to kill it. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to also because I never played this game. I watched other people play it. It looked interesting enough. When the Wendigos would hunt people, it would act like the predator. It would literally, kind of seek out people to hunt and actively eat. The whole premise of the game are a bunch of people get stuck in the woods. Your classic teenagers get stuck in a cabin by themselves, and a monster appear. And basically the Wendigo is going around picking people off, and the few people who get bitten by it, but it doesn't get completely eaten by them, often become the Wendigos as well, and they
Right.
start hunting people and trying to eat people as well. So they actually got the mythos pretty spot on.
No, they did. Props. I mean, I gotta give credit from what I've seen with you guys with games. A lot of them put a lot of research and hard work in. So I'm guessing that's not all games.
No. Yeah, I'm giving credits to this game because this game, if I recall correctly, it was very mixed received. Some people liked the story, some people thought it was complete crap. I think it got released. I think I was waiting for it to get released on PC for a cheap price, and I was gonna wonder if that was maybe one of the other Let's Plays we would want to do.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it.
Did they release it? Because I remember it was for PS5. Yep, they released it. Why haven't I tried to buy it? It must still be expensive. No, it's not. It hasn't come out yet. Okay. It's coming to the PC. It was a PlayStation exclusive. That's why I've never played it. So, yeah, that maybe we can do that if I can find it for cheap.
There you go. Again, I'm always game. Well, I guess technically your game. I'm up for watch gaming. Because again, if I play these things, I will get addicted to see me. Ever. But yeah, no, that's the story of the Wendigo and the possible origin of it. That's about all I've got. Anything you guys want to add?
I'm still trying to think if there was anything else. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of was Wendigos from popular video game franchises.
There you go. Well, maybe this will get some more popularity to it. Zed, you got anything?
Nope, all good for me.
Okay, well then, thank you for watching this episode. And of course, if you ever want more information on this, or please feel free to read Probable, Possible, Plausible, an explanatory guide to monsters and myths.
As always, links will be in the description for both YouTube and Spotify. And what's before we end off, what's the next episode going to be?
I'm sorry, you cut out there. Were you asking what the next monster was?
Yep.
1 second after the. I was just actually thinking that. Okay. As you'll probably notice, this video was shorter than our other ones because there's been so much on dragons and other stuff. The next one will also probably be a short video, but it's going to be a fun one where we're going to be looking at the Viking Berserker.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay, good. I have one for that.
We do have one for that, yes.
seriously, I thought since he was human, like he'd have a harder time. But okay.
No, that's an easy one.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. But all right. But Viking Berserker, be a short one and be a fun one, because who doesn't like mad Vikings ripping people apart?
Okay, I'm game.
All right. And with that, we will see you all next time.
See ya.